So is this thing on now? Cool. I am Andreas Hassellof and my company is called Ombori. And if you are watching this very first episode of this brand new YouTube channel, you have probably met us before. Maybe you know us as the company that makes talking mirrors or smart recycling bins, or maybe if our paths have crossed during this year, maybe we have discussed virtual queues or pre-booking visits to the stores or doing curbside pickup. But one thing that we haven't spoken too much about, especially during this year, is why are we doing these things? What is really our strategy? And how do these different things that we are creating fit into that overall picture? So, today, I think that makes a great topic for a very first episode of this YouTube channel. So if you join me in my closet, home office, I'm gonna tell you all about it. Let's go! So, if we are going to understand why we at Ombori are doing the things that we are doing, we need to take a trip down memory lane. For many years, we worked closely with large organizations to create great mobile apps for their customers. And I always found this to be inspiring, because even if you ship just a tiny improvement to the customer experience, you would reach so many people because they have so many customers. And this slight improvement in the user experience could actually translate to an improvement of the daily lives of a lot of people that were interacting with these organizations regularly. That said, working with organizations like that is not always easy, because this process of going from an idea to actually shipping and putting something in the hands of the customer can often be a very long and time-consuming and sometimes frustrating road. So let's just look at the mobile apps as an example. So iOS and Android apps are coded with different programming languages. So you would need to have two teams just to code the app. Then you would need to have one team that does the UI and the user experience design, and at least a fourth team that builds the APIs to connect these applications to the infrastructure of the organization. In a best case scenario, this would take months or possibly half a year before you can ship something, and in some cases it could even take a couple of years. And this was really the problem that we set out to try to solve when we created the Ombori Grid platform. Our approach to this was to create reusable templates and components that we can use for more than one client. If we were building a shopping cart for a grocer, then it would pretty much be the same shopping cart for a fashion retailer. But their backends would be completely different. So the way we solved this was by creating our own data model and then just having a small translation layer that would allow us to connect our applications to whatever infrastructure our client was using on their backend. So when we launched the very first version of the Ombori Grid for creating mobile apps in 2016, we created a roadmap for ourselves, or our great master plan, if you wish, for how we would get a global reach with our platform and the technology that we were creating. And it consisted of 5 steps: clients, media, financing, partners, and finally an app store vision. So let me break that down. So first of all, we needed clients, and we wanted sizable companies but still in the Nordic region, but that would allow us to have a very close collaboration to validate everything that we were building and making sure that we were doing the right things at the right time. And at that time, there was a big demand for mobile apps, which allowed us to quickly bring on board great companies and build some very successful apps at the time. And this actually allowed us to get in touch with Microsoft. And thank you, Anders Vedal, by the way, for bringing us into the Microsoft BizSpark program, which is now called Microsoft for Startups, I believe. And this was a game changer for us because, first of all, it allowed us to build on top of Microsoft Azure without being too constrained with budget, and to leverage all these great technologies, which allowed us to build our platform in a more rapid manner as well. But it also opened up another door because Anders connected us to Linda Pimmeshofer, who was working with retail clients in this region, and she asked us if we wanted to help out with an innovation project for H&M in their Times Square flagship store, the largest H&M store in the world at the time. We were, of course, really excited to get this question from Microsoft and H&M, and we engaged with Linda and the brilliant Alex Bilbao from H&M in New York around the project. But it quickly became apparent that this is not a mobile app that we should be putting in this location, but something more physical. And we came up together with Alex and Linda with the idea of a talking mirror that takes selfies and brings fashion inspiration. So something completely different from what we had done before. And the thing is, when we started to look at what we had built with the platform, it quickly became apparent that actually this is a perfect fit, not only for creating mobile apps, but also for creating these digital experiences on physical devices out in a retail store environment. So we took on the project, we built it, and we launched it by May 2018. And I can tell you that we were not prepared for what happened next. Hundreds of people started using the device in the store, and what we did at this point was that our brilliant Björnström brought a videographer with him, flew over to New York and created a case video around this thing. And once that launched and Microsoft pushed that in their channels and H&M pushed it on their social media, then other media really started to pick up the story and just running with it. And I think the estimation is that around 150 million in one way or form have actually read the news about the talking mirror at H&M, which is just amazing. And my favorite story from this time is actually, my wife is Chinese and we have a lot of relatives living in China, and they started calling her asking if it's really her husband, which is being featured or mentioned in China Daily. Mind blown. And when you get this kind of attention, what happens then is that we got a lot of calls from retailers around the world. We realized we had hit some kind of nerve. Everyone, it seemed, wanted to figure out how to connect online with physical, how to reinvent their stores, how to be better at unified commerce, and how to live up to the customer's expectation, where e-commerce is moving super rapidly and not so many things have been happening in the stores historically. And we engaged them and we learned so much from these discussions, and the outcome at that point was that we decided to refocus our platform using the very same technology that we have built, but with a new slogan: digital experiences in physical spaces. So what does this actually mean? Well, now we are saying that the Ombori Grid platform is bridging 4 different and very important areas. The first one is cognitive services, such as computer vision and voice recognition. The second one is IoT. Anything from a fridge to a gate that needs to open at the right time, or even lighting that needs to change depending on different conditions. The third one, and now we're moving into the customer user interfaces, but the third one is the digital screens. Big signs, smaller contextual touchscreens, any display that will somehow capture the visitor attention and provide some immediate value. And the fourth one, and the final one, which is also extremely important, is the mobile device. Because in many cases, when I'm navigating this physical location, I actually prefer to use my own mobile device to interact with the environment and have access to the same kind of information and bi-directional data flow as I would on a screen. But there is something else that I would like to highlight, which has nothing to do with the technology, but more the emotional aspect of what we're doing with digital experiences in physical spaces. Because I'm used to building things that show up on a screen or on a mobile phone. And although that is great and can provide a lot of value, it's still not something that I can touch or feel in the same way as when we are interacting with a physical environment. And I don't know, like, maybe it has something to do with my upbringing. Like, my dad was a wood carver. I spent a lot of time with him growing up. I was basically carving wooden figures with a knife before I could use a computer. And he created sculptures, small and big, and sure, they were not interactive, but it was something that you could touch. And it felt so real in a way that a website does not. And when I saw the H&M voice interactive mirror in the flesh on the location for the first time, it triggered something inside me, I think, like an emotional response to seeing something that we had created that had like a physical context that actually started speaking to me if I were present, and it just felt like it fit into the environment. It felt real in the same way that these wooden figures felt. And that was just incredibly inspiring, and that just got my mind started thinking, okay, how can we take this to the next level? What happens when we connect the lights, when we connect the scent, and when we just streamline the whole customer flow throughout the location? Anyway, emotions aside, going back to the grand master plan. So we had clients, we had the media attention, we needed the financing in order to realize our vision with the platform. And we started booking meetings with venture capitalists, angel investors, and one company which actually stood out from the rest, which was ITAB Shop Concept. If you haven't heard about ITAB, it's a publicly listed company, one of the major suppliers to the retail industry in Europe and actually all around the world, focusing on everything from smart lighting to shop fittings to smart checkout systems. And for us, it felt like a really good match because they would basically tick off not only the financing box, but also this partner checkbox that we needed to team up with others that could help us build these experiences on top of the platform. So we fell in love. Last year they invested in us, and we have been working together since on realizing this vision and defining what is the future of the physical shopping environment. Having teamed up with ITAB and Microsoft, we were really getting ready to scale things up at the beginning of this year. But as you know, COVID hit, and it brought with it a big impact for the whole retail industry, ourselves included, of course. But in a way, we were still fortunate because thanks to the strong partners we had with Microsoft and ITAB and the flexibility of the Ombori Grid platform, we were able to, in a matter of weeks, create digital solutions to help with this situation. So we focused on things like virtual queues and pre-booking visits to stores and doing curbside pickup so that the customers could collect their orders without even entering the location. And we managed to get a global reach thanks to Microsoft and ITAB and brought in a lot of companies with these solutions. And this is still something that we are spending a lot of time working on today. But there is another thing that I would like to mention, because what we have also seen during COVID now is that it has not only brought with it tragedy, but it has also accelerated the digital transformation of the whole world and the retail industry in particular. So we are getting more requests than ever for new kind of ideas around the digital customer journey, and we simply don't have the bandwidth to do all of these things ourselves. So it goes back to this foundational core strategy that we had from the very beginning in 2016, that we need to enable partners to build on our platform in order to realize all of these ideas and to help our customers. So that is actually the number one thing that we are investing our time in today. How do we make the platform even better for our partners? How do we create an even better developer experience for our partners and also for our customers to build on and expand the capabilities of the platform? It's not only about building the experiences, because you also need to ship it, deploy it in the physical locations, and for that you need hardware. So what we are doing now is that we are creating pre-certified screens, pre-certified computer devices that are able to run our experiences out of the box. So just like you're buying an Apple TV or a Google Chromecast and connect it to your TV in order to get started, you will be able to buy pre-configured Ombori Grid computing devices, connect them to a screen, and when they power up, you just scan a QR code and choose which experiences you want to run on them, which I think is really cool. And I think for our partners, this represents a unique opportunity, because it takes away so much of the pain and the groundwork required in order to build this kind of experiences. They can focus on the UI and the UX, and they will be confident that things will actually work out in the rough retail store environment, because the devices will be tuned, the platform will be there and make sure that things work. And they don't need any special skill sets to build these things. It's enough if you can code web apps or if you can code Docker containers, essentially. And then you can create all of these kind of experiences that really, bridges the worlds of cognitive services, IoT, digital screens, and the visitor's own mobile phone. So this describes what we're doing right now. But what is going to come next? Well, going back to the 5 steps of our grand master plan, the final step is the application library, the experience store, the app store, whatever you want to call it. But the vision with this is that all of the apps, all of the experiences that we have created or that our partners have created will be listed in a single web interface. And when you have plugged in your devices in your location, you can just choose which one of these that you want to deploy. And that, I think, is extremely exciting, and it's going to happen much sooner than you think. So this was the Ombori Grid vision and master plan. And also this concludes the very first episode of this new YouTube channel. If you liked it, press the like button, subscribe to get more updates, because there will be more clips like this.